bars in a rave. Man, I go hard like Santan.
Welcome to another New Spurs or the pod under the banner of Touchline Fracas. I'll be a host tonight, X-Pac, and I'll be joined by two lovely co-hosts. First up, again, Scott Hall. Doesn't miss a beat at the moment. How you doing?
Again, for what, the third week in a row, you can piss right off. Every single last one of you. I'm done with this club. Done.
He's done.
I'll be back next season, by the way.
He's even giving me a ticket to one of our games soon.
I am.
Can't wait to sit in the North Stand. Booker, T, how you doing?
Always good. I feel like I've not been on in a few weeks, but yeah, I'm here, man. I'm here. What can I say?
But you made a return to football. The knees. How's it holding up after?
Yeah, it's doing bit slowly but surely. Not trying to throw myself back in too quickly, but yeah, slowly but surely doing good work.
Proud and passionate. Fair play. Well, there's only really one place to start. We've just come off the back of conceding another last-minute equaliser against another relegation-threatened side on another occasion where we had a win all but wrapped up. Boy, Stellini and Mason's first game in charge after Conte sacking however long it was ago, and we're expecting not wholesale changes maybe, but some certain small tweaks. Going into that first half, Tops, what did you kind of make of it, and did you kind of see anything which made you think, okay, this is a nice little tweak, this is a nice little change, this is going to give me a little bit of enthusiasm going forward?
Honestly, no. I kind of felt that, like, since Conte had been dismissed from his duties and Stellini and Mason were at the helm, I was hoping that it would be a bit of a fresh look to the team, and maybe we would just perform with a little bit more energy, a little bit more vim than we have done, especially in the last few weeks. So when I saw the team, and interestingly saw Forster harshly dropped back for Lloris, but you can't really account for, your club captain being on the bench if he's fit, and then Perisic being in the team, and Son starting again. I was kind of just happy to just take whatever happened. To be honest with you, I had no expectations, and to be honest with you, for a long time now, I've had no expectations going into games. Like, it doesn't matter if you're top of the league, doesn't matter if you're bottom of the league. Like, my expectation level is so low. I feel so mentally abused by this team that I don't really know what to expect on most match weeks.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, going into it, to be fair, like I think for any team to go away at a relegation threatened side, especially one with the new manager bounce, a Sean Dyche new manager bounce, no less, I think it was always going to be a hard game on paper. Like, we're never going to, I think, even if you're a Man City, you're finding it quite difficult to at least match their energy and to be able to break them down, as they're going to be a very compact side. And they were very narrow. I did notice we were trying to switch it quicker. I didn't actually watch the first half. I couldn't catch it, but I caught the highlights, and you could notice one, our energy levels were actually good. Well, desire levels, however you want to call it. Maybe we didn't run the 2 kilometers before the game. Who knows? But yeah, we were looking to switch it a bit quicker, obviously, with them being so narrow, and we managed to create one or two half chances off it. Perisic managed to get a good chance into Kane, a decent chance into Kane, I should say. It was like a header which he had to lean back for. Other than that, though, I think just as the game wore on, it just seemed to get a little bit flatter each like couple of minutes we played. But I've got to say, like, I thought Kane played well from what I saw. He did. I felt let down by like Son and Kulusevski, I should say, because Kulusevski's not really been like his true self since the beginning of the season, really. And yeah, just the productivity from midfield, not just from Yao's favourite player, but from Skip as well. There was one opening where like, Son was actually peeling off, making a good run in clear space, and Skip overran it into the Everton defence, which was it was frustrating. So a lack of quality until the sending off incident, I think, which was a bit of controversy. There's a bit of controversy somehow within itself. Yeah, I know what you make of Kane generally, but like I watched Monday Night Football afterwards, and they debated this whole Kane incident just as much. They did the breakdown of the whole game, and it was arguing back and forth of whether he made a meal of it or not. Like, what did you make of that whole Decore Kane incident?
He got mushed in the face. Yeah, like fine. He went down. Decore got a red card, but he got mushed in the face. I think people need to relax. This might be the first and very few times I actually defend Kane. This is nonsense because he fully got there was fingers in his eyes. Pause. Yeah, like it was a mad mush in the face. A man are telling me, oh, he overreacted. When I've seen players get small one stud to the knee and do forward diving like an Olympic diver. Nah, I'm not trying to hear that. Like he had every right to go down and hold his face. He had nearly a whole bunch of fingers, pause, in his eyes. What kind of nonsense is that? What do you want man to do? Stand up? I've seen people say, oh, Richarlison did the same thing to Ramsdale. No, he didn't. It was completely different. It was a palm to the face, but it was a completely different thing. Like he didn't mush man fully in his face. I don't want to hear none of this rubbish. Like, stop that. Like, I can't believe I'm actually defending Kane, because if he was a Manchester United player, I'm sure Gary Neville would have found an excuse.
Oh, I think Gary Neville was the one defending him, to be fair. It was Carragher.
Because he wants him at Manchester.
Yeah, Carragher. Yeah, there is that. Carragher was the one saying if that was his son doing that, he would have.
Carragher spat at a girl on the motorway. Please. Like, stop that, Carragher.
I wish that was said on Monday Night Football.
Like, he opened his mouth, rolled down his window, not electrically, rolled it down and spat at a girl on the M-way. Come on. I'm not trying to hear nothing from Carragher.
I've got to defend myself slightly here, so I'm getting called out. Like Papa Blankson's commenting, our front three lack of pressing is the reason panicking starts to happen. I'll get onto that because I think that was one of the reasons why we kind of stopped playing after we took the lead. Also, Kane was not good. Owen, I'll say why I thought he was good. Feel free to reply in the comments, but generally, like when he was dropping deep to retain the ball, he would always hold it, and more often than not, he would hold it and actually pass it off and find his man with these passes, and then the move would subsequently break down when he passed it to someone else, and he couldn't really get inside the box to get on the move, which subsequently broke down. Could have done better with these decent chance that Perisic created for him, but no, generally I think his all-round play and energy was actually pretty good. But the bar, that said, is still on the floor. So yeah, make of that what you will. As I've just alluded to, Tops, I'll come to you. We did take the lead after Romero. After a wishy-washy game, he managed to throw himself in front of a challenge to win a penalty off Michael Keane. Kane scores the penalty. Fair enough.
So what he does now.
What do you make of against the goalkeeper that he trains against quite a lot as well, regularly? What do you make of what happened after that? Why did Tottenham stop playing again?
I felt like it was a number of things. I felt like generally we've had it happen to us a number of times this season, and I kind of felt like the players mentally maybe just reverted into that sort of mindset whereby you're winning the game and actually there's not that much to do and there's not too much onus for us to try and get forward. And I think honestly that for a large amount of this season, I actually think that they're suffering mentally. I don't know, you can call it a block or you can call it some sort of deficit whereby I don't think that players can truly be themselves or express themselves in ways that they want to. And because there's been so much training and so much emphasis on a specific system, on them being in specific positions, that actually the notion to be free and to be expressive is massively reduced. And actually, that's affected us in I think two ways. Firstly, the first way, I don't think the players really think that they can. I don't believe that they can defend that well anymore. Because if you think about the system that they've played all season, it's been a Conte system, and for some reason the Conte system hasn't worked. But they're persisted with the Conte system, and especially defensively, we've been affected using this system. And maybe the players don't feel like this is something that they can truly get behind. I mean, it's all, we can have a discussion about Stellini not being there, Stellini being there and being basically someone who's been with Conte for the last 10 years, right? Fine. So it's Conte light with Mason, but there were no real changes if we're really going to be honest. Another thing that I think is massive, I don't think the players have I don't think this group of players, or actually not this group of players, I think there's probably a large amount of players that are being asked to do things that they're just not comfortable with doing. I look at our defenders, I don't think many of them are ball playing, and lots of opportunities that we were playing ourselves into trouble because we hadn't, one, got the goalkeeper to do so, and two, generally the players outside of Romero to do so. Another thing I think as well that we're suffering from a little bit is just a lack of actual football IQ. And the reason I say this is because if you're just looking at it from a what's the best way to say this? If you're just looking at it from face value, if you are playing against 10 men, you numerically have more men. So if you numerically have more men, you just need to be able to keep them at whip's bay, at arm's length, but effectively, because you have the numerical advantage, you should be able to move them from side to side, be it with passing, be it with introducing decent passing lanes, be it even cross-field balls that Liverpool do all the time to open up play. We didn't have the mental IQ as a team to be able to create any opportunities to use that numerical advantage to our benefit. And weirdly, we actually reverted and did the opposite. We were happy to sit back, let them press us high, give the ball away, and create basically no meaningful attacks until they scored. I'm so confused at that 20-minute spell after the red card, and then 5 minutes just after they scored their goal. I was so confused. I didn't understand why we didn't look like we could put 5 passes together. We didn't look like any of our clearances were working. We didn't look comfortable in possession, and we didn't look comfortable in our shape. And this is against 10 men.
Yeah, I agree. Papa Blankson just commenting back to what I said about Kane, and then I'll get into that a bit more. He said, I slightly agree since Højbjerg refuses to turn and pass forward. I say he wasn't good because he's taking too long to do his number 10 role, and at times he needs to back into defenders more. Yeah, fair enough. That's fair enough. What I noticed there was just a distinct lack of, I guess you could call it physical and mental energy. So Perisic was completely fucked. There was no doubt about that. ideally he would have needed to be subbed off just for someone who can just run and make himself available as an outlet for a pass, even if it's just for a dummy, or a decoy. Son and Kulusevski and Kane as well probably were all fucked. There was a nice little thing that Conte used to do before Bissouma got injured, which he'd actually get some joy out of. And even though he had and was misprofiling Bissouma to a point, he would bring him on for an attacker as an extra midfielder, and that would give us more control in games. And we would see out results, and even get back into games as a result of just gaining more control in midfield. You've got Højbjerg as well, who it was ironic because we actually had our attackers making quite a lot of good runs from what I saw in the first half, but we weren't hitting them often enough. And then after the goal, everyone just stopped making themselves available. It didn't have to be just in behind, like even just for an option short. Yeah, it was quite hard to watch, especially when you've got a tied Højbjerg trying to play no-look passes a couple of times in a row, and then no matter how many times it fails, he'll continue to do it. But then again,
can I just
this
say,
isn't just hindsight. I just wanted to say, like, I really felt like, obviously taking off Longley. I don't know if you clocked his reaction tops when he came off, but even he was bewildered as
he
all of
was.
us.
He was.
He's walking behind the goal as if to say, like, he's fucking taking me off. Like, what's going on?
But like again, like okay, I know Yao wants to come in. Two things on that. Like, I just don't see. I don't know, man. Like, I'm not a coach. I'm not at any level of my coach. But I just need to understand what his mindset was when he was making that decision, because you're taking off a guy who's left-footed. Fine, he is on a yellow card. However, we aren't being pressured as much as they think we are because we have a numerical advantage. So if anything, we could even bend it to our will so that you never have to put him in situations where he's going to be one-on-one or someone's going to get him behind him. Secondly, in a game like that as well, and Toby says it all the time, we do really need a high volume passer, because there were lots of moments where Højbjerg on the turn with his back to goal, with himself at like 45 degrees receiving the ball, there's no protection of the football. You're constantly giving the ball away against a team that has not that much to offer. We have a numerical advantage, and all we need to do is keep the ball. And constantly, this man, like, he was especially bad on Monday night. Honestly, it just feels like you're just flogging the same dead horse. Like, because if you are playing against 10 men and you want to slow the game down, you have to keep possession. It's not even that difficult. You have to keep possession, even if it means recycling 5-10 yards left and right, front and back. You have to retain possession. And constantly, this man was behaving in a way to give it away under like little or no pressure. Like it's just difficult to defend when you're watching it and you're like, this can't be what I'm seeing. Like, can it? At this level, this can't be what I'm seeing.
That was, I guess, a question which is also an inadvertent layup for Yao, who has been waiting to come in.
This definitely can be what you're seeing. Bruv, let me tell you this straight up, yeah? Poch, Jose, not Nuno because he doesn't count, and Conte. Now, under Poch was blamed. I'm going to be very fair on each manager. Poch was blamed predominantly for going 9 months without a victory away from home. That's really and truly what started to be the rut against Poch, because he got sacked early in the season. Like 13 games. Yeah, we were 14th, but points-wise, it wasn't that crazy in terms of like the distance from getting back into the contention of things. Jose comes in, and after probably around late October, November of his first full season, so not his first season, but the actual full season, people are like, I hate this style of football, blah, blah, blah. We get to December, we're top of the league. People are like, we hate this style of football. And then it crumbles after December, completely crumbles. Conte comes in, and around January, again, we're having another crumble, just losing bare games, most of them to Chelsea. And then the last 10 games, we somehow turned it around and finished top 4. Cool. Poch's tenure towards the end, he was blamed. The players weren't blamed so much. Jose's tenure, he was blamed. And even murmurs of people saying, oh, he's telling the players to drop deep, sit back, and defend 1-0. Players came out and said the manager wasn't doing that. But
he did do that, though. He did against Arsenal and Man City.
No,
and then we couldn't get back out of that.
No, that was tactically set. Because when we were at home, we did the same thing. We beat those teams. That was a tactical set. I'm talking about in other games where we were 1-0 up against lesser opposition and the team sat. And fans, including you just now, said Jose told the players to do that. And the players came out and said, no, he didn't. So, all right, cool. But fans were adamant it was Jose. Conte
How have we got to talking about Jose, by the way?
Hey, I'm not bringing it round. I'm not bringing it round. Yeah.
Okay.
Conte now comes in. Again, we got 1-0 up. Players sit. Nobody has once said, not one person has said Conte is telling the players to sit back. People have now finally realized after 3 managers, these men are doing it of their own accord. After 3 managers, one, of course, was heavily hated, but oh well. But after 3 managers, people have finally clocked on, oh, do you know what? It might not actually be the manager telling these players to sit back. Yes, Conte's system doesn't really work in our favor. Yes, we don't have the players to do the Conte system the way he would like his system to be. However, these players go 1-0 up and revert to type. They sit back because they're afraid, because they're shook, because they're losers. 1 through to 11. None of them really take, the front foot and say, you know what? Nah. If we keep going at these guys, we're going to score 2, 3, 4, 5. None of them. Not even the record goal scorer, whose accolades are just individuals, because he's not a team player. As we saw in Southampton, Son waiting for the ball, man blazes it over the bar, because that's what you do when you're an individualist. We need to rip up the script. I'm happy for certain man to leave the club. Happy. Come summer, I'm happy for the whole script to be ripped completely.
Fair.
Torn to shreds. The majority of people that need to leave are obviously Toby's favourites, but that's fun.
This is segueing into something else I wanted to speak about. So I was going to wrap up the Everton game because we all know what happened afterwards. He brought on Stellini, brought on Lucas Moura. I can't remember if he made any more subs. I think it was just Sanchez and Moura, wasn't it? Yeah. Moura, who's not as good as Dan Juma, and he's leaving at the end of the season, got himself sent off. Got a bit excited, and then we conceded a screamer from Michael Keane. Mental. So he ended up drawing the game. So it's the 90th minute they scored that. Stellini's had to come out in the press conference again, say, yeah, Danjuma is a good player and that, it's just hard to get him in the team because of players like Lucas Moura, Son, Kulusevski, that lot. Conte tried to say that he wasn't really fancying Danjuma because he doesn't see him as like a number 10 or whatever else. I'm just like, what do you see Lucas Moura as then? Because this guy's getting minutes over people like Danjuma, who's getting minutes over Bergwijn last season. I don't get it. And it just leads to what Yao was saying now. He wants to rip up the script. Many fans calling for a rebuild. But what does a rebuild look like for Spurs in your mind? And I guess how long would that take as well?
This is something that we did speak about in the group this
Mhm.
week. Based off the end of last season, I was of the opinion that it would take 2 to 3 more windows, because I felt like we did a lot of good work to remove players, or not remove players, or just sideline them, or kind of loan them away. And actually, we were slowly starting to move towards players of a higher technical level. So you look at players like Romero, you look at Bentancur, you look at Kulusevski, you look at Porro. Arguably, you can say Udogi, and I mean, to an extent, a little bit. He hasn't really performed amazingly, but from a technical perspective, you can even say Perisic as well. So that's positive. However, there are still like big areas in the team that need to be looked at, and the issue that I think is a problem is that you can't fix all these big issues in one window. I also think that the loan system that we have at the moment, or how we're managing our loan system, needs to be completely looked at, because there's lots of players out on loan. And when it comes to squad planning, lots needs to be done to kind of like fix those issues. Those guys, it was 8 or 9 of them, will all come back in the summer. Do they want to be at the club? Will they be given opportunities to be at the club? Can we gain some revenue from them? Will we have to accept that we're going to make losses on them? So that's something that needs to be fixed. In terms of the timeline, I honestly don't see how it changes positively for us in the next 2 years. I don't. And the reason I say that is because you've still got Son on a long-term deal. You've got Kane, who may or may not decide that he's going to sign. You've still got Ndombele. We've got 2 more years on his deal. You've got lots of players who are not really on the periphery of the squad, who are just squad players, but they're not really getting game time. And like, I think big decisions have to first be made on those players, but then we have to also decide what kind of profile of player we are wanting to be looking at. I kind of feel that this direction that we were going in with regards to young potential players with possible resale value, I think it works. But I think at the moment the squad actually needs deep work for the first team, for the starting 11. And my issue with that is that that's going to cost money. But at this point, Owen, you know how it goes. To spend money on starting 11 players is something that we just don't have. We've still got to pay Kulusevski money at the end of the summer. And then we start to look at the deep areas that need fixing. We need a starting goalkeeper, which I think is going to cost us anywhere between 30 and 50 million. We need a high volume passer or creative midfielder, in my opinion, which is going to cost us, again, similar sort of value. And if we're looking at protecting that left side, Son being 30 already, we're going to have to start thinking long term about either a starting left wing or a proper backup right wing. And that's, again, going to cost another big amount. Plus, I haven't even touched on the fact that we are desperately in need of a starting top centre back. So, if you do the maths on those numbers, bro, man, that's like 200 upwards. And I ain't seen us spend that much money in years. And the only way ever I see us doing that is either, one, we generate a lot of revenue by selling Kane, which I'm not 100% sure about, and 2, we generate revenue from selling the guys who are effectively on loan, and they can maybe draw up some extra money. But I don't know. I feel like this is now a process that is going to take some time, and it's got to be a two-way process. I mean, like I've always said that my biggest issue was getting the players out, and actually we've signed some good players in Porro, Udogi, Kulu, Benten, Romero. I think that's okay, but I also think now that it's got to be a two-way street. The guys have to be gone, and we have to bring quality in. And I don't even think, Owen, at this point, that there's no negotiation to this. Otherwise, we're going to have the same issues and we'll be having the same conversation next summer.
For sure. I guess how long do you think that would take? Like how many windows before I guess we're at that level which you'd be like, okay, that's gonna be something I'm happy with. 3 windows?
I think 3 windows, yeah.
I think it's doable in 3. As I've alluded to, like in the group chat and I guess other pods as well, like I think I guess halfway through this rebuild already. If we're looking at what we've done with the player recruitment, the recruitment team behind the scenes being overhauled, and the players we've actually been willing to take a loss on, most pertinently Delhi, who we actually let go for free, even though he was worth the most amount of any player in world football in like 2017, which is still mad to me. We've been willing to take cut price deals on players like Ndombele, Lo Celso, Reguilon. We're willing to let go of players like Winks. We've already got rid of Aurier, Sissoko, Lamela, who was just on a cut price thing with the Hill deal. Doherty we let go for free because we just couldn't loan out another player. Like we've decided to get rid of so many players now. We didn't actually realize that rule about loaning out too many players until like the last hour of the transfer window. So I'm liking that new intent from us. I just need us to continue in that way, hopefully generate some money through some transfers this summer. Like I don't think we're going to get anywhere near some of the figures I've seen on people put up on Twitter, like 25 million for Lo Celso, 15 million for Winks, etc., etc. Like you'd be lucky to get half that. I'll be real, but we can generate a decent amount still. I think like we can probably get minimum, depending on interest in these players, I guess, but like 50.
Okay, like Owen,
from
in
a
your
collective
opinion,
amount.
first of all, 2 questions.
Okay.
Of the players that we have now that are on loan, who do you want back? And second question, how much do you actually realistically think we can generate from the players that you don't want back?
Yeah, I'll continue with the 50 million from the collective players that I don't want back, like either Lo Celso's, I won't say his name, but you know who it is. The Joe Rodons. Who else am I forgetting?
Reguilon.
Brian Hill, Reguilon.
I'm not sure on Reguilon. You know, I do want Hill back. I want Ndombele.
I can answer this question
to get a look in at pre-season training at least.
But
that's it. I'm trying to think of who else we can actually just sell other than Kane. Gogita's put a decent one in there. Troy Parrott might get a small fee for him.
Yeah.
I think he's fallen down the pecking order of our kind of young strikers now. Yeah, we can only generate a decent amount of money if the club actually cut their losses on these bummy players. I think we tried to. Honestly, I think we tried to last summer, but there's the yin and yang effect of being the richest league in Europe by far. It's like when you've got players who have been signed for a certain amount of money and a certain amount of wages they've been put on, it's hard to offload these players in the post-COVID market. But hopefully that's started to level out a bit more now. Yeah, sorry, you said you were going to answer the question for me.
Yeah, I think this summer, one player that definitely has to go that will probably generate a tidy fee, regardless of what he's done this season. Son.
I just realised we could probably sell Højbjerg as well.
Like, we should do to Højbjerg what we did to Dele Alli. Like,
no, but we don't. What's funny is that like we're talking about players that are on loan, and like arguably there are guys in the squad now that we can actually let go and actually get some money from.
Bro,
I think Højbjerg is someone in that. I think
how much do you think we're getting for Højbjerg?
I think Cess is one of those guys.
How much do you think we're getting for Højbjerg?
I don't know if anyone buys Cess, you know.
I think we can get 15 to 20 million for Højbjerg.
Impossible. We're not getting no more
Like,
than what we paid for him.
Sanchez is going into his last year. I think we can get some money for him as well. I mean,
20 million max for Sanchez.
There's lots of guys in this squad that can easily be moved on. And I think the club needs to just make the decision. And I don't know, like, I know that the model of having a director of football is really good and it seems to positively work. But actually, I think, like, there should be hopefully a manager or someone strong enough to be able to say, I'm sorry, maybe you're just not good enough at this point. You're just not good enough for what we want. And what I think is so important is that our recruitment in terms of our manager is hugely important, because if we're being real, for the last three and a bit years since Poch left, we've reverted to playing a certain style with certain players. And whilst in some moments it's worked, largely it's a negative style. And I think if we have players who are largely like put in systems which allow them to positively express themselves and allows them to play progressively, there's a lot of players that don't even fit that bill, that in this current squad, that I don't even think can fit that bill, which I think will almost make the decision for us in many respects.
So for me, in the current squad, this summer, I'm not talking fees, I'm talking about who I would let go. Whatever they generate is whatever they generate. But I'd let Sessegnon go. I'd let Perisic go.
Yeah.
I'd let Højbjerg go.
Mm.
I'd send Skip away on loan to
Why?
a Premier League team.
Would you?
Why?
Wait. Yeah. I'll send Skip away on loan. Not that I personally want him to go, because I think there's something there, but it might not happen. But I'd let him go on loan to a Premier League team. I'd move Sarr up to his position in terms of like fringe starting or getting games.
Mm-hmm.
And I would heavily consider selling Son. Sanchez has to go, and I know Lucas is going. From the players that are coming back, as much as he didn't have a good tenure before he got sent out on loan, I would keep. I wouldn't even sell Rodon. I'll just cancel his contract. That guy's a fraud. I would give Reguilon another try as a backup left back to Destiny.
Udogie, yeah.
I would bring Ndombele back again, give him another try. Hopefully, things change there. I would so basically my midfield would be somewhere between Basuma, Ndombele, and Bentancur.
Obviously, Bentancur won't be back.
We've got to be mindful that Bentancur probably
is not coming back
to like good form
at least December.
However, taking into consideration all this nonsense that's going around right now, apparently that we're leading the race for Maddison. If Maddison is in, then that's one of the three that's starting. And the only reason I'm not having Skip stay and I'm keeping Sarr, this is going to sound a bit harsh on Skip here, but I think where he's had the injury and he's not been in favour with Conte for whatever reason it is, and when Conte has used him, Conte used him in a weird position where he had him out wide of the three, which was weird. For me, I think if he goes out loan to a Premier League team, it's a fresh start, at least a team that should hopefully be playing the way that we want him to be playing.
I disagree with you.
Honest to God, I think if he stays, this is going to sound really harsh, and I don't mean it in the way that's going to come out. I think if he stays, the next manager is not going to favour him at all.
Why?
They're not.
Tell me, why?
Because really and truly, yeah, and this is going to sound really harsh on Skip, I only see him playing one position, and that's DM. I don't see him playing box to box, centre mid, because I don't think he's favourable in that role.
And who are DMs in the moment?
He's the only DM.
Exactly. You're answering your own question. Wait. You haven't even let me finish. The managers we've been linked to don't play
a genuine standard DM. They play a DM that can actually play box to box. Enrique at Barcelona, even though Busquets plays DM, he can play box to box. Skip can't do that. Even if Nagelsmann comes in, which he won't, but if Nagelsmann comes in, any of his DMs play box to box. He played Sabitzer as a DM because he could play box to box. Skip can't do that. So all of these managers that we're looking at, they don't expect their DM to be just a straight, flat out DM, which is Skip's best role. They expect their DM to be capable of dictating the pace sometimes if they need to pass it on and go. He doesn't do that well. That's not his game. So
I actually think it's important to have his profile, though, even if it means he doesn't. I think it's important to have his profile.
I don't think he can survive another season being on the fringe and getting Carabao Cup games.
Well, the thing is, though, as well, is that at this point, I actually rate him as a better DM than Højbjerg. I think he does a lot of.
He's by far
He
better
does a lot of
than
the
Højbjerg.
he does a
Højbjerg
lot.
is crap.
He does a lot of the defensive work better than him. I think he does the simple stuff. He probably could do a bit better, but he links play a bit. No, actually, he doesn't link play as well as Højbjerg.
No.
But
pause for a second, brother.
But I think
Papa Blackson, what have I just seen? Did man put 40 million? Is that 40 racks beside Højbjerg's name? Or is this a squad number? I need him to come in the comments immediately and explain what that 40 means. That better not be 40.
So I'm going to read
That
this out
better
for the
not be
audio
48.
listeners, and then I'll go through the kind of unanimous players that we'd sell and go through how much we would actually realistically take or get for them. So Papa Blankson has said Sanchez will get 15 million for, Tanganga 10, Winks 15, Lo Celso 20, Reguilon 20, Rodon 15, Højbjerg 40, Sessegnon 20, Lloris 2, Perisic 5. I think he'll just leave on a pre-contract. Kane 100 for Emerson 25. I didn't actually add Emerson to the list, but I might as well. So I've got Winks, Sanchez, Højbjerg, Rodon, Lo Celso, Cess, Tanganga, Parrott. I don't know if it's unanimous that we'd sell Emerson Royale, especially if we go to a back four. But I guess how much would you take for Winks, realistically?
15.
I don't think we'll actually get that much for him. I think
12.
10 with homegrown tax if we sell him to another Premier League club.
Oh, if he goes to another Premier League club, then 15.
Okay, not fair.
Do you know what's so upsetting about looking at like even that list is that like how many clubs at Premier League level need that much work done on their squads? Like, and not just from a first team perspective, but from like a 22-man squad, 18-man squad. Like that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's possibly 13. I'm going to say, okay, 13 is a stretch because I think Kane's maybe staying. I think Emerson probably stays. I think Reguilon maybe stays. And we can probably give Lloris an extension for a year. So
He's going to stay.
So let's take away 4 or 5 of those. That's still 9 or 10 players that need to be moved on in the squad. And that means, like, by deduction, that's 9 or 10 players that need to be replaced. That also need to come in. It almost feels like it's too much to be done in one window. And yeah, it won't be done in one window, but we need to be thinking long term that this is the work that he's doing. And until we get this work done, we're going to be getting a lot of the same.
Fair enough. How much would you take for Sanchez?
I'd take 20 million for Sanchez at this point because he's in last year.
Get 20.
Yeah, because I think he's in last year's contract. And the thing about Sanchez is that in this Premier League, I think his biggest deficiency is that he's not a technical defender. But when it comes to defending, he actually does it okay. He's not like awful. It's just that when you watch him with the ball at his feet and when he needs to do things that are just simple, he can't do it. But when it comes to things that are like primal, like defending, I think he doesn't do that stuff bad. He's fairly athletic. He's not a bad tackler. He's kind of okay at pressing people. But I just think in the Premier League, I just don't think it's right. I think he would do well in like Spain or Italy. I really do.
Fair.
I think 15 plus add-ons.
Yeah, that seems doable. Højbjerg, I just put at 15 just so we could break even somehow. Joe Rodon, like 10.
10,
So,
yeah.
10,
Celso,
8 million for Joe Rogan.
I think
Celso,
Lo Celso, I think, is an interesting one because, like, from what I've seen of him at Villarreal, the guy can still play. I've watched a little bit from him as well for Argentina. Guy can still play. It's very odd to me why it didn't work out at Spurs. Very odd to me when I think about it. But
pace of the league.
there's a player there, and to be honest with you, we can use it to our advantage because I think Villarreal actually want him.
Yeah, they do, but they can't afford what we want for him. I
So
think it's the league that killed him.
so it's going to come at a cut price because he wants to go, and we'll probably want to get him off our books. I can't see how it's anything more than 20 million. I don't think they even have that. So anything 15 plus, I don't know, something. It just feels like just the plan, the planning
it's painful,
of
innit? But we're actually raising more funds than I thought we would already.
you know, like
yeah, how much should we get for Cess?
For that piece of crap.
uh,
Hey, Cess, yeah. No,
Homegrown.
no. What I'm gonna say about Cess is gonna probably shock everyone. This summer, Cess has to go along with an option to buy because we're not moving him for straight P's. Nobody, after what he's delivered in the past 2 seasons, is paying straight P's for him. He has to go and earn his bread.
Owen, I know it sounds terrible, and I'm just trying to be objective because I'm looking at what we can get from these guys. I don't think I really don't. I don't.
Yeah, this ain't his level.
I think not only is the league too physical for him, but I also think it's so technical now, and he just looks like either he's 2 yards slow for it, or he's just not physical enough to manage it. Like it's like I watch this guy and I'm absolutely baffled that his career's gone this way, because this is a guy who's clearly devoid of massive amount of confidence. But I honestly think he just needs to go back to basics. And the way the Premier League is set up these days, I think some people would rather take a risk on like a Junior Firpo, a Estupinian than they would be on a Cess. He would be better off. He would be better off going to like a championship side, trying to get themselves back in the league where there's not too much pressure on him to perform every week, but he has experience of playing in the bigger leagues, and he can be like someone who can really get his form back. Lots of players have done it. Like lots of players have done it. I just don't see a role for him in Tottenham now, and I just don't see a role for him in any of these other teams when his injury record is what it is, and even his playing record when he is fit is the way it is. It's really quite sad because this is a kid. It's literally a kid.
Damn. Yeah, and I agree with that. Now we've got Japhet Tanganga.
Just get rid. Just get rid. I'm so sick and tired of listening to guys that are just periphery dons that come in and do not perform. Like the issue again we have with lots of these players is that the drop off between first team quality and squad quality is so vast. And like, I'm sorry, at a top 6 team like Spurs, I'm sorry, there should not be that much of a drop off. If you're going to say to me, okay, I'm playing Romero and I'm going to take out Romero and play Dyer for a cup game, fine. If you're going to say to me, I'm going to take out Udogie and I'm going to bring in Davies, I'm going to say, fine. I'm not listening to players like Rodon and Tanganga. The drop-off is too vast. And unfortunately for these guys, you're in a situation whereby they're getting no minutes, and the minutes they are getting is only when they're being thrust into the team because of injuries and other issues. And then their confidence gets battered because they don't play enough. And then when they do play, they make mistakes, they're confident, they maybe try to do too much. No. I'm honestly of the opinion, at this level, for Spurs to try and move forward what we need to do, we need to start culling. We need to actually start culling some of these guys. And it's okay to do that. Like, you can start again. You can afford to just do something different, but we can't keep doing the same thing. No one can keep coming back to me and saying to me, Tanganga's a good option. No, he's not. I'm not listening to it. You
How
can't
much?
keep saying to me, 10 million, 5 million, 10 million, get rid of him.
I think maybe another loan to buy, but yeah, I'll
It's-
put another
it's just-
10 million.
And what's so frustrating is that, like, you're looking at guys at his age that are playing regular football every week. You're happy to sit on the bench. You should be moving on.
It's insane. I think he tried to move on, to be fair. Like, there was that in that series, it was either on BT Sport or Sky Sports, I can't remember, and it followed players on their transfer deadline day journeys,
he
and
did- he
Tanganga
did
had
try to move
options.
He had options,
Yeah.
and I think
The club
if I'm
pulled him
correct,
back for homegrown quarter reasons.
it might have been one or two things actually, not just the homegrown. But I can't believe I'm going to say this. Wasn't just the homegrown, but I believe that Conte and the club kept him because we may have been short of defensive options if injuries arise.
Yeah, and
Listen,
I-
I'm going to lose it. Yeah, Conte has he's such
Like-
a mid-ute. Yeah, everyone he likes is mid.
for me, it's just frustrating though. It's because, like, you look at guys that are his age, like you're looking at Colwill, you're looking at Gahey, you're looking at that brother Cresswell. Like, there's guys that are playing regular football, and you're sitting on the bench. You have to do something, because at a club like Tottenham, your minutes are going to be few and far between. So you have to prioritize your playing career. You have
Did he
to.
get a contract extension?
No, I don't think so. He didn't. Let me just check.
Because it feels like he's just happy to sit on the bench for peace.
I mean, Tanganga, he is 24 years. Oh my God, he's 24 years old. 2025, 2 appearances, no starts. It's just when I read stuff like this, I'm just like, whatever, man.
No
He
starts.
actually had what I thought was quite a high ceiling at one point as well. That his initial run, 1920,
24-year-old in the Premier League
and
with 2 sub appearances. Yeah,
that
you need to
was
move
that
on,
was
bro.
new player bounce. One thing that's interesting about the Premier League here is if you're, I'm not gonna say decent, if you're a player in certain positions, so outside of midfield, so defense and forward, if you're a player and most of the opponents haven't played against you or don't know what you're about, those first few games, you might come across as a worldie. You might even have some really top level performances, boost your whole confidence up. Because big man, when they find out what you're really about in this league and you've got no plan B, you're just another Kika Makeda, bruv. And that's not what you want to be. Yeah, you don't want to be the wondrous kid that scored that wonderful goal and then doesn't have a career. Tanganga had a great first game. I think it was against Liverpool. Because we had injuries. Great first game. Showed, put his body about. Jose played him left side, right side, middle. He's fine. Pause. He was cool. You know, he done his thing. And then he got the regular performances, the regular startups. And do you know what the game that actually made me clock though? This kid is ass. Crystal Palace. I was like, what the?
Yeah.
When I watched that game, when I saw what he did to Zaha. At first, I was like, yeah, that's fine, you know, yeah, fine, you pushed him. But then I stepped back and I thought about it for a second. I was like, flag! Do you know how rubbish you have to be for that to be your first thought to just push the opponent? Because you know you're not going to get there. I'm like, nah, this kid is, bro, he is wired differently. I don't care if he's from Edmonton.
Like,
Can't go to the stadium, bro. Move.
Like, so sometimes I have a bit of sympathy because I feel like in many ways, and I'll move on from this, in many ways, it's difficult because as a young player, you're at a club like Tottenham. You get a few of these guys, club like Tottenham, club like Chelsea, club like Liverpool, and you just want to, and you want to prove yourself and you want to play. But there's like a small balance between your eagerness and your enthusiasm and stubbornness, because there's players that can actually play at this level who are of age. You're talking about players like Abraham, who, finally didn't have funny time at Chelsea, but he is playing in a top league and performing. You have Tomori, you have you have these young guys who are capable of playing. You have Lookman. Sometimes you just have to take the stubbornness out of it and be like, you know what? Even if it means I drop down the league or I change team, at least I can still get my football and I can still produce. I can still get some tape. I can still get some minutes in me. But like at this point, you're looking at people. I'm looking at people like him. I'm looking at people like
Rodon.
I'm looking at Rodon. I'm even that guy that's at Fulham, Tosin Adarabio, whatever. These are guys who are just stubborn, who are not playing any football, and these are their prime years where they should be getting experience playing regular football, even if it is not in the team that they want to play for, but at least they're getting minutes under their feet. But it's just it's so frustrating now. How are you a 24-year-old and people don't know what kind of defender you are? It's not. No. I'm sorry.
Played 2 matches and none of them are starts.
Yeah, none of them are starts. Yeah.
Wow. Even Brian Hill's got a start, and he weren't even favoured.
Yeah, it's
There we
frustrating.
go. So I added up, see those fees. I think the minimum and the very minimum we can get from those names is about 80 million. So who knows? We might actually be able to do a little something in the summer, and obviously if Ndombele stays as well, a few of us might be happy. A few of us have said we've got one more in us. He's come out with some quotes today, and he was saying, like, I don't know what my future will be. Many fans asked me to return to Tottenham, but the clubs will decide and Napoli have an option to buy. I don't think he's getting first team starts or regular starts there, so I can't see
he's
Napoli
not.
paying out.
He's not. He's absolutely not.
Yeah, and he said, I don't mind being on loan here, but sometimes I see football's being treated more like commodities than people. That's the unfortunate nature and reality of modern football. I think there was no other solution with Tottenham, and I'm happy I chose Napoli. With Conte, there was no choice. I would like to demonstrate my value on the pitch, but I was on the edge of the group. It was communicated to me within the first day back. Am I lazy? No, it's a label I've always had from school to the field, but it's not like that. On the contrary, I work constantly to improve. Yeah, I've got one more in me.
Facts.
But that's limited to what we can do. In fact, for now, we obviously got a game against Brighton on the weekend. I'm not optimistic of even getting the point in this game, but what kind of little tweaks or changes can we make to this team to make us somewhat respectable? I'll go with you first.
Let's see, what have I predicted since the North London derby? A loss for every single game. I predict a loss. Yeah, don't matter what the scoreline is, I predict that we are going to lose.
Oh man.
Fair. No changes either, or just
nothing changes.
Just surrender.
I don't care what the team lineup is. I couldn't care if Harry Kane's going for his 18th goal of the season. Couldn't give a flying crap. We're gonna lose. Harry Kane's gonna do 4 kilometers of running. Højbjerg's gonna go to the opponents 12 times.
I mean, just so you know, anyway, Harry Kane actually has 21 goals. Yeah, just for your.
Yeah, probably 17 of those are penalties. I couldn't tell you what he's done this season because I couldn't give a flying crap for him. I don't listen. When he came out and said it felt like a shot to the heart that we went out of the FA Cup, I was like, all right, cool, bruv. Granted, you didn't really start that game.
Yeah, he only played 20 minutes that day, mate.
I was like, cool, I hear it. But the Carabao Cup, when we lost to, I believe it was Nottingham Forest, that we got kicked out by in the Carabao Cup. Yeah,
but we were awful that day, and he wasn't really at fault, to be honest.
Bruv, it's not just him. I'm talking about the team. I don't want to hear it's a shot to the heart. Yeah, when man's been to 4 finals and had no shots on target. I don't want to hear shot to the heart when you've been to 13 semi-finals and dunked out or bared them. I don't want to hear shot to the heart when you're getting dunked out of a competition to Nottingham Forest. I don't want to hear none of it. I don't want to hear shot to the heart. I don't even want to hear him say, oh, he is one of the captains and he's not a leader in this group. You must be mad. You must be mad. If you think I'm going to sit there and listen to Harry Kane say, come on, lads, what? Shut your mouth. Do your job. Yeah, turn up in the big moments. Yeah, how can you have 3 kids? How can you deliver in your bed, but you can't deliver in the pitch when it damn well matters? What kind of nonsense is this? I don't want to hear 21 goals. What's 21 goals going to do for me? Well, we're about to finish 7th. Are people looking at this? Brighton have got 2 games in hand. Newcastle 2 games in hand. United 2 games in hand. Everybody's got games in hand in us. What? And I think we're going to creep to 4th. Listen,
points on the board, brother.
Every man needs to thank Allah, needs to thank God, needs to thank whatever thing you're preaching to. Obviously, preach to God, take time and think about it. But, bruv, if we make top 4, that's a madness because this is the ugliest season I've ever seen in my life. No, correction. It's not the ugliest season I've ever seen in my life. No. But the feeling of this season, how I feel about this season is the exact same feeling I had in 98. Yes, people, that far back when we were literally 4 points above the relegation zone. This is how bad I feel about this season. I couldn't give a flying crap where we are in the league table. We look awful. Awful. We stink. We absolutely stink.
We do.
We're going to go to Brighton. That youngster kid, what's his name? Matoma.
And Evan Ferguson, yeah?
Matoma is going to cause hell. Listen, I need police on standby because there's going to be multiple raping that I do not want to see present. He needs to be arrested after the game because I know this guy's going to cause us hell. And Evan Ferguson, what, Baby Kane they're calling him? He might deliver. I heard he's not a loser. That's what I heard. Hey, make of that what you want, innit? Yeah. But we are going to lose. In fact, I've got a scoreline for you guys. 4-1. We're going to get punched. We're going to score first, and it's going to be a penalty by Kane.
It's going to be an interesting one. I watched them midweek. I watched them last week. They're a good side, man. They got really good players, lots of players in form. They have lots of scorers across the pitch as well. And they seem to be really playing in a really positive way. I don't know, for lots, I did think that they were playing under a template that was largely Potter's. But funnily enough, we've played them a few times and we seem to have got the better of them in the recent times, which I'm not really sure why.
It's weird. We've had back-to-back wins at their home ground, but
yeah,
I'm not sure what the result was at our stadium the season before. But last season they beat us in the last minute. It was a Trossard. It's either 1-0 or 2-1.
We beat them the season before that. Gareth Bale.
Yeah, 2-0.
Yeah,
Gareth Bale 2-0.
Yeah, Reguilon to Bale. Was that the season before?
Jesus.
Yeah, that was season before. Yeah,
no, that feels like ages ago.
That was the COVID season.
Yeah, fair. I think Kulusevski and Son both need to be dropped.
For who?
Sarr and Danjuma.
Danjuma.
That's literally all we can do with
These
options.
Italians don't even like the Nigerian brother.
So what would you go for? Is that what you're saying, that you go for a midfield or a 3-5-2?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can honestly see how that would work. It means that we would pack the midfield because that's where they're very strong. You know, in those three, in Gross, Caicedo, and McAllister, they've got 3 players of 3 different profiles who are excellent, who have been excellent this season. I think I saw the other day that in the Premier League, McAllister's got like 10 goals. Do you know Son has 4 goals in the league? McAllister, a midfielder for Brighton, has 10 goals. All right.
He has nearly a goal per month in the season. More than Richarlison. Another one of Toby's favourites.
It's remarkable. Gross is playing at a really high level, and we all know, how many teams were linked with Caicedo and his qualities. So we have to really, and you know what? Even Mitoma on one wing. The other day I watched, Brighton against Brentford. Solly March had 6 shots on target. So, I mean, I couldn't believe what I was watching.
6 shots on target.
I couldn't believe I was watching. So
We are
like in my
gonna-
in my head, I'm like, their chance creation is heavy, which I think is like just that's how he's got them playing. Solly March on one wing, a midfield three, which is Mitoma and a midfield three with Mitoma and Solly March on the flanks. And they've got like, a decent sort of setup with Estepinian left back, Colwill, Webster, Dunk at the back. Although they have dropped their goalkeeper, Sanchez, for Steele in the last like 3-4 games. I'm not sure why. And still seems to have come in and done quite well. But it's one of those games that we could shithouse it. We could very much shithouse it. But I think I honestly believe, and I say this like, with a heavy heart, it could be a long day for us.
There's no. You shouldn't be saying this with a heavy heart, big man. Listen, you just have to be honest with yourself. You just said Solly March had 6 shots on target. We are going to get absolutely annihilated. In fact, you know what? Let me be nice. We're gonna lose every game from this point of the season to the end of the season. Yeah. Listen, this team is cooked. It's done. It's finished. I couldn't care what we do. I don't care if we win. Even I'm still gonna chalk it up as a loss. This season is write-off. It's a complete write-off. Let's get to summer. And let's think about it, because we ain't signing a manager till the season's done anyway, or to the fraud man, part of the mafia team, has his appeals finished. Outside of that, we ain't signing nobody. So,
I mean, the only thing that gives me a little bit of confidence is that their recent form has been against teams that are in the lower half of the league, and to be honest with you, we're quite fortunate that that. They're fortunate in the sense that they're effectively playing one game a week, apart from the FA Cup at the moment, which they're in the semi-final. But they don't have much experience of playing these big pressure games. And whilst we say, "Oh, Brighton have got 2 games in hand," it's all about points on the board, and they've still got to play some really difficult games. They've still got to play Arsenal. They've still got to play us. They've still got to play Newcastle. They've got some really important fixtures in the next few games to try and see how their league goes. And listening to that the Beautiful Game podcast, like, I know it's really like defeatist to speak about a team like this because they're somewhat inferior to Spurs in terms of their size and everything, but the way the CEO spoke was almost like they're just happy to be there. They're happy to finish as high up the league and perform with no pressure. And sometimes if you actually play in a way like that, when it doesn't go your way, you can't be really disappointed. So they're going to go into these games, just try and perform and get what they can. But I don't really think it's going to be a case of, Brighton are going to be like this massive next big thing as well. Because also, like, we have to just accept it as well. Clubs like this, they're getting good moments, but effectively they're a feeder club, and they're actually happy being a feeder club. In the summer, they're going to lose Colwill. They know they're probably going to lose Ferguson. They know they're probably going to lose Mitoma. If someone comes in for a big bid, the CEO said it himself. If the bid is right, someone like Caicedo could easily go as well. So it's always interesting to see how these ebbs and flows of these teams when they're in good moments. At one point people spoke about this, spoke about this with West Ham and spoke about this with teams like Wolves. But weirdly, we're still in the mix. It's such a funny polarizing. It's a funny polarizing conversation.
Us being in the mix, we've been in the Premier League for decades upon decades. The structure of the club is there. That's why we're up there in terms of in and around the ranks. But listen, this season, all I want, if I'm being brutally honest, I would like for Brighton to happily give us 3 points. Because it would be nice. It'd be nice if they don't go ham on us and we take the 3 points. And then they decide to go ham on those guys on the other side of North London and cost them the league. That would make me feel better, yeah? But that's not what's going to happen. We're going to get blammed, yeah? Because we are Tottenham Hotspurs. And we are run by losers. We are run by losers. Yeah,
see, sorry to interrupt you again, but this is what I'm saying. Like, they've been very fortunate in the way that they've gone. If I'm talking about the last 6 games that they've played in the Premier League, Bournemouth away, Brentford at home, Palace at home, Leeds away, West Ham at home, Fulham at home, Crystal Palace at home, Bournemouth at home. Like, but then you look at the next games that they have. Honestly, the next 4 games: Tottenham, Chelsea, Man City, Man United. That's their next 4 games.
Beautiful.
You know,
Beautiful. I like that. There's at least 3 victories in there for them. I hope one of their losses is against Man City. But the other 3 teams, they can punch up. Chelsea, yeah. Us, yeah. United,
be interesting. I don't know. Like, this
lose all
weekend,
4 as well.
I think this weekend's just important because I think right now, you know, the PR at the club, the players, the fans, it's all negative. No one can tell me otherwise. It's all negative, and I can't imagine it's going to be a nice place to be on the weekend. You know, so 3:00 kickoff. So, you know, it should be fairly full, and the fans are going to want a reaction. The last 2 games that we've played, people are going to say, "Oh, you picked up 2 points." They both felt like losses. They've both felt like losses, very frankly.
Are we home or away?
We're at home.
Hey, we are going to get blamed at home. What the kind of rubbish is this? Blamed at the stadium. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's gonna be
my God, we're gonna get blamed at the stadium.
It's gonna be an interesting
What are our fans gonna do? Our fans are gonna do nothing. Yeah. When it was time to riot, them man had a concert. Our fans are gonna do nothing. They're just gonna say, they're Toby singing, Antonio. That's all they're gonna do. I don't trust these fans to be real about it. I told you in the last pod, Levy's accessible.
All right. We'll sign this off. There's one more question.
Don't sign it off.
Gogeta.
I want riots. I want problems.
All right, we'll get to this question. So, can you guys explain to me why we hardly ever promote players from the youth setup and we hardly develop any talents? It's like there's no platform for them to break in for first team. Please discuss. I don't know why we don't have, I guess, the talents to be able to promote them outside of Divine, who we signed. But the platform thing, I mean, we've obviously had a couple of managers who don't favour playing young players. Even Pochettino in his last 2 years wasn't great at it, even though he had Skip right there, gave him a few minutes here and there. Yeah, and the fact that I don't think that the academy teams are playing necessarily the same style as us. Maybe they've made a shift towards it with the appointment of the head of methodology and Simon Davis, but it's hard to tell. I haven't watched enough games of our academy teams this year, to be fair, but I don't get the impression they've been playing the same way.
So it's a bit of a. So we're a team where we don't notoriously promote. Okay, no. In our history, we've had one standout gem from our youth team or talent, under 21s, whatever it is, that have come through and they've become a mainstay in our teams. If you go through the history, Sol Campbell, Ledley King, even Gareth Bale, Harry Kane's the latest one. You know, all of these guys became mainstays. The problem we have is our turnover of these academy players is poor. And what happens is we would get rid of a lot of our better academy players because the said manager in charge at that point has either fallen out with this academy player or doesn't like their play style, i.e. Edwards and Poch. Poch thought Edwards his head was too big on his shoulders. Gave the green light, he went. Yeah.
Poch's fault for that partly as well. Called him a mini Messi.
Definitely. But he went on to go to Victoria and then Sporting, has made a career of it. We had the kid that's now gone to Chelsea, Maduaki. I can't pronounce it.
Maduaki,
yeah, Maduaki.
We had him. We lost him. He went to PSV or Feyenoord or whatever Dutch team it was, and now he's at Chelsea. I don't know if he's going to have a great career, but we've had players like this that we haven't managed well because, you know, whoever the manager is at that time either doesn't fancy them or don't think they're capable of stepping up. And that's fine if you don't think they're capable of stepping up. Send them out on loan. You know, send them out on loan to a team with your play style. We don't do that well. We haven't done that well, I should say. And then you take into consideration that we promoted the likes of Tanganga, Winks, and people have seen it that just stunk. You know, they either had a good initial start and then it just fell apart. And a lot of managers come in and be like, yeah, I'm not really favoring it because you have to really, really coach these kids, you know, up until a standard. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, my thing is, when you look at it, Chelsea's model, as much as I hate them, you know, they loan and loan and loan and loan and loan until either the player is good enough to come into their starting team, depending on whoever the manager is, or they've built up a big enough stock that they can sell them for a profit. And a good profit at that. You know, Ruben Loftus-Cheek went to Crystal Palace. Gallagher went to Crystal Palace. Came back to Chelsea. I don't know if Gallagher's still a starter, but Ruben made some starts for a few managers. You know, they've got a very good system in terms of that kind of rotation of academy players coming up. I know they've got a massive academy, but they do that. You can't compare it to Arsenal. Arsenal have always, you know, integrated. In fact, Arsenal's entire system, they all play one style. So it's not a problem for them. You know, the same with Barcelona, all one style. Real Madrid, funnily enough, are similar to us in they will promote a gem here and there. But the majority of their academy players, they go out. United, not really. United, one or two, you know, might have a good season. Go out. It's not that easy to promote kids from the academy unless your team from the first academy team all the way to the first team play the exact same style. That's the only way it can work. Because then you would have players that you can be like, yep, take you, come into the team. That's why Barcelona were happy to go with Gavi and Pedri and even Atsu Fati. They were happy to go with these players because they knew you guys play our style. We don't have to teach you guys to play the Barcelona way. We don't have a way. We don't have a style. We don't have nothing.
I think one of the things that we're really missing as well, I don't think there's a real path to the first team. I don't think players, even if the style is different, you know, I don't know how football works in terms of the modern day difference between under 21s, under 22s, under 18s, and first teams. But I feel like there was once a time where, you know, if a player was good enough, generally he was probably rewarded with some game time in the first team. Yeah, you can take on managers who don't really promote first, youth players or give them opportunities. But then again, like, it kind of defeats of having the youth, the youth academies, the youth setups. You know, you have clubs pay massive amount of monies to either develop guys or to bring guys in to hopefully try and represent the team in first team. And Poch always used to say it as well, is that, like, if you have a lot of these young players, it's actually very good for them because these are the guys that you want to kind of pad up the first team, not just because of their quality, but because also generally these players have been at the clubs for a long time. They understand the culture. They understand what it means to play for the club. So that's why if you get someone like a Winks or a Kane or even a Skip, they understand what it means to play for Tottenham. And if they're good enough, like I always say, I've always said this, young players, they're playing so much football at that level. And sometimes you need just a switch in them to be able to say, you need to change this, you need to improve this, you need to do less of this. But generally, the young players who are good enough to play at this level, given the opportunity, they will perform. I mean, we're talking across the league. This happens. You look at Bajcetic at Liverpool, Evan Ferguson at Brighton. You're looking at players like Palmer, Foden, Mount, Saka. They're genuinely, if you're good enough and you're given the opportunity and there's a decent pathway for you to be integrated into the team, you don't have to play every week unless you're a wonder kid. But actually, the opportunities are just so they're so small, and it just feels frustrating because at Spurs we're putting all this money into players who come into the team and are kind of young and are kind of old, and they don't even understand like what the club, like what it means to play for the club, or even sometimes what the club plays like. And you have these young players like, you know, that just don't really get the opportunities. Like, you know, I don't. I look at Skip as a perfect example, and that's the kind of person like. That's why I kind of disagreed with what you said about Skip, because in my head, he's fulfilled his role perfectly in terms of his trajectory in the club. Poch saw potential in him. Poch gave him some minutes, but realised he needed a bit more honing of his games. He needed a bit more development. Went to the Championship, which is arguably a men's league, and he performed. He showed out. So actually, he became a player who actually improved his game, developed his game, and realised that he could play in a men's league. And you bring him to Tottenham in a first team, and actually, that's the kind of player who, I know it's very cliche to say it, but he gets it. He's been in the club a long time. He knows how important it is to play for Tottenham, and given the opportunity to play, he will play. And he's someone, in my opinion, that is like arguably perfect for that squad role, whereby you need someone who's going to come in at a decent level, who's going to give it their all, and they can play at a goodish standard. And he knows that there's a path to the first team because he's been in the first team for a long time. He's put in the minutes on loan, and he's come back and he's been rewarded. You just don't see that in the first team often enough at Spurs, and unfortunately, like, because it's a very much a win now culture in the Premier League, and that's across the league, not just at Spurs, the opportunities to give players first team opportunities at the top of the league are so much, they're so much less than it would be in like teams in like the bottom, I don't know, 14, 15, 16 teams in the Premier League, in my opinion anyway.
So just to bounce off that, this kind of goes back to the manager point that I was making in terms of whether the manager favours younger players. Because in Conte's first season, when Skip had come back from Norwich, he gave Skip a good run, like with Højbjerg. And for me, Skip was the better of the two. Skip got injured, fine. That's nothing against him. He got injured. I think he missed the rest of the season. Obviously, Bentancur came in. We finished the season how we finished. Bentancur and Højbjerg start the next season. Me personally, if I was Conte, I'd have gone with Skip and Bentancur. I think everyone even said it in the group. It has to be Skip and Bentancur. It almost was unanimous that it had to be Skip and Bentancur. But Conte didn't fancy it, kept it with Højbjerg. We had the stinker that we've had, and then decided to give Skip Trump minutes. And it's only when he gave him a run recently, because of Bentancur's injury, that you're starting to realize, this kid should have at least started ahead of Højbjerg. But the damage is done. That's why I'm like, even if a new manager comes in, if he goes to on loan to, I'm just going to say a team out here, and I'm not being disrespectful to the team, but if he goes on loan to, say, Aston Villa, I think Emre would appreciate him.
He ain't playing at Aston Villa. He's not like, the reason I think what you're saying is right is that, like, yes, he didn't get minutes under Conte, but then that's because, bro, largely he was playing in a two, and Bentancur is better of the two, and he trusted Højbjerg because what did Højbjerg do? Played end of the season, and he played to get us into the top four. So of course he's going to play him, but you have to understand that, like, this is what I mean about like players like Skip. It's actually okay to be a squad player and give the squad what you need. But I'm sorry, he's not going to Villa. He's not playing over Ramsey. He's not playing over Diaz. He's not playing over Kamara. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay.
This is the thing. If he goes on loan, yeah, because the same thing happened with Walker. Yeah. Walker didn't start every game when he was on loan, but he played a lot of time. He got minutes. He got very good minutes. Yeah. And he was in the Premier League as well, so he was facing a lot of the opponents he was going to face when he came back to Spurs. Even when he came back to Spurs, he wasn't lights out straight away. But the problem is, and this is where I blame the manager. This is where I blame Conte in this regard. Skip gets back to full fitness. At this point of the season, I'm looking at the team. I'm like, drop Højbjerg. Drop him. Stop this whole he's favourable. I was even at the point where I was like, drop Son, but stop this whole favourable thing. Give Skip a few run of games. Let the kid get his feet back in the first team. If it goes back to rotation, that's fine. But let the kid get a few runner games. You know what he did? He put him in a free and then put him on the right-hand side of the free and told Basuma to do his role.
Crazy. Yeah, I remember that game as an example of when he played the box-to-box role. Sorry, Tops, I think you were talking there, but you were on mute. But I think we need to wrap this up now, lads. I mean, we got 11:30 now at the time of recording. Yeah, it's been a good one. It's been a good one. Obviously now on to Brighton this weekend. Really not hopeful, but guys, thank you again for joining us. It's been another News Post Order Pod. Thank you for those in the comments, particularly Gajita again and Papa Blankson. Yeah, catch us on the streams every Thursday or Friday, depending on our schedules, and the audio comes out every Saturday. But for now, peace and come on.
Bun Spurs.
Ciao, ciao.